Hey, Guyanese, hey, what make we so stupid? I wonder. Guyanese like myself, yes. Why we so foolish? And I want to tell you. Imagine we put the leaders there in the government and gone we back from them like we don't care how taxpayers' money spent. With all the corruption that taking place, we is the ones to be blamed. While them are thief. We just sit down like if we lame. But this God don't sleep. No, he don't sleep. By the time I don't sing make I so, I know you're gonna agree with me that he don't sleep. Jehovah not sleep. One day the same bad seed that them sow, it's that they're gonna reap. Under this party, politicians thieving at will. Under this party, them not care, they're doing it still. Under this party, all the big contracts are good to them friends. Under this party, them forgetting the longest rope of an end. But if we the people can come together and stand up for what is right, put aside we indifference and start unite. Politicians will know them damn place and work with honesty. Then boom, Guyana would rise and have a vibrant economy. Ding dang diddy do dang dunga day. Whoa, dee da dee da dee ding diddy do dang dunga day. Whoa, da 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 do. Hey. Hey, Guyanese, hey, what make we so stupid? I wonder. Guyanese like myself, yes. Why we so foolish? And I want to tell you. Imagine we put the leaders there in the government and gone we back from them like we don't care how taxpayers' money spent. With all the corruption that taking place, we is the ones to be blamed. While them are thief. We just sit down like if we lame. But this God don't sleep. No, he don't sleep. By the time I don't sing make I so, I know you're gonna agree with me that he don't sleep. Jehovah not sleep. One day the same bad seed that them sow, it's that they're gonna reap. Under this party, politicians thieving at will. Under this party, them not care, they're doing it still. Under this party, all the big contracts.
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
Source. Okay, well, maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Sujiro?
So my relationship, nothing. He's a tenant in my place. Yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes. Yes. He is a friend of ours. His father was here from many years ago. Hmm?
All right, hey, guess what? Good evening. My name is Mark Benchap, and welcome to Straight Up on 107.1 FM. Let's get ready and get down straight to business. Lots of things happening. Top on the burner, top on the agenda is the Sue Gates and the investigations, or lack thereof of an investigations. We know that Irfan Ali, who happens to be sitting there at office of the president, has called for a probe. I'm not sure what he means by that, but a lot of people are not buying into that. He is saying that he wants a probe. Again, people are not buying into this at all. Hey, wherever you are, wherever you tuned in, whether you are in Guyana on the ground, good evening to all, every single one of you. We have some great news for you. We have some information that we want to share with you. And our guest this evening, I'm told that he is with us. He is backstage. Thank you so much, Lemon. So we have Tom Anderson. Mr. Tom Anderson is with us this evening. We get straight down into some serious business, and we thank you so much. And I want you to read my lips, maybe more than read my lips, or probably read my mind. We will just say it once. Thank you so much for sharing the link. Thank you all. All right, so let's move on this here now. What's happening? Bribery allegations and Vice News program should be probed. Now, this is important. Why is it important? Because this very guy, Irfan Ali, not so long ago, in fact, when the news came out, Vice News came out, it was Irfan Ali who said that it was actually fake, that it is a lie, and all manner of things this guy said. I noticed Tom Anderson, my friend, is in the background. We can see him. He is smiling over this story because it was Irfan Ali who said that this is basically fake, it is wrong, it is lies, and all manner of things. Lo and behold, now he turned, as we say, he's flipping the script now. He's now saying that there should be a probe. Allegations on Vice News program should be probed. Mr. Tom Anderson, good evening. The turn of events, indeed, right? The turn of events. I believe you were on this show when Irfan Ali, when we posted that Irfan Ali said, basically attempted to discredit Vice News. Are you surprised at the turnaround, so to speak, of Irfan Ali?
I mean, if you can, by the way, hi everyone, by the way, and glad to be back on, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, because
good to have you on, Tom. But let's go.
It's serious business, right? So, look, I said at the time, right, and I pretty sure I remember this. I said, I don't think Dr. Ali or Jagdeo realized that the reporter for Vice News, that she's a real reporter. I said this, and I said, I don't think they realize that real reporters record everything and they back everything up. See, here's true reporting. A real reporter, when they do a story, the public is only going to see 10% of all the work they did. So what we're seeing on video with Jagdeo and all this is only 10% of what Vice News has. They have 90% of other bad things they haven't even put on TV. And the reason why is because it's so complicated. It will take forever. If they actually covered all the corruption she dug up in Guyana,
All right, got a little bit of bad connection there. We'll have our guys fix it as quickly as possible. Tom Anderson is with us this evening, and he's talking about massive corruption, and the fact that Vice News, a reputable news agency, despite what Irfan Ali and Jokdeo and them try to say, and the so-called low-level spin doctors, it is not going to happen. Vice News is not going to air something without not having the evidence. And they do have the evidence, lots and lots of evidence. But let's get back to Mr. Anderson. Sorry about that, but go right ahead, please.
So here's the problem that Dr. Ali and Jagdeo and everyone in Guyana, everyone's going to have going forward. So let's say there is an inquiry, right? If they don't do something serious, like a real investigation, then guess what's going to happen? This reporter is going to be able to reveal the truth on anything they try to reveal. Because, like I said, she still has a mountain of evidence that she's sitting on. She's sitting on it. So I predicted it before that these guys would not be prepared for her to have recordings, number one. And I'm going to predict now that they're not prepared for all the evidence she's compiled. And watch, they're going to try to cover it up probably, or they're going to try to run some type of fake investigation or something. And she's going to be able to follow up with what she has to really embarrass them. So they should be careful on how they tread here, because I think she's got them cornered, and I think they have no idea that she does.
Let's. I want to ask you this question. Do you think by now, based on what Irfan Ali has said, that they, according to the news, that they should be a probe? Again, he's going back from what he said. He totally attempted to discredit the news agency, but now he is saying they should be a probe. Do you think it is because it's obvious that Vice News that they have much more evidence than Irfan Ali and Jagdeo they initially thought?
Well, that's the thing. I think they thought, like I said, that she didn't have any recordings. Once the recordings were let loose, now egg on the face, right? Anyone looking at the video can tell that, oh, we're dealing with corruption here. We don't know who's corrupt. We don't know how much money it is, but you can tell there's corruption going on. And if you're Dr. Ali and you're trying to tell the world and the Caribbean and everyone in South America that, hey, Guyana, we've changed our ways. We're the PPP. We're the leaders of a government with no corruption. You can do business here. Trust us. Well, with that video out, no one's going to believe a word he says, period. So he's running around the world now. He's looking for financing for projects. He's talking to different governments, and everyone's looking at him like, hey, man, what about the video? How much? What are you guys going to shake us down? Like, are you saying that we can do business there? But what's going to happen? Is Jagdeo going to come and ask for some more money on the side? How does this work? Right. These are the questions now. So that's why he's asking for a probe, because in his mind, they have to do something to make this go away. And I guess in his mind, he thinks having a probe will make it go away. But what he doesn't realize is these types of things only make it worse. It only makes it worse.
Absolutely. I am suspecting for some reason or the other that other persons have spoken about bribery and corruption and kickbacks and having to pay bribes, especially to high-level so-called government officials in Guyana. For some reason, I'm suspecting that this goes beyond just the Chinese. Are you getting that feeling too?
Absolutely. I've said it before that, when you see when you see Chinese businesses just swoop in on the country and they start getting contracts to lay all of the fiber optics or all the internet infrastructure for the entire country, when you see that happening, that's happening because they know that that's a government that is open for business for them. And for them, what that means is forget about the rules, forget about laws, forget about the people who live there. Just give them whatever they want, and whatever cash you want, they'll pay you in however form you want to have it. So if that's what's going on with the Chinese, and that's what they're doing in Guyana, most likely, right? Then what do you think is happening with everyone else in Guyana? Everyone else is doing the same thing. So it's a runaway freight train, right? It's a runaway freight train. And I think, the PPP have what some people would call a tiger by the tail on this. I don't know how they deal with this. This is a true submarine hitting the boat. Like something big hit, and they're taking on water and they're calling for probes, but I don't know if that's going to work. I think they're in trouble.
Obviously, yes, and we agree with you, Tom, that they are in trouble. They have realized that they're in trouble. There's no way out of this. But what sort of probe you think this should be? I asked that question because no one trusts the Guyana Police Force to conduct any sort of probe. No one trusts the folks at SOCU, particularly the head of SOCU. No one trusts these guys for a probe. So what sort of probe should they have? And what sort of probe you think Irfan Ali is talking about?
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure the type of probe Irfan Ali's talking about is a probe that does some investigation, and the point of the probe is to come out with a result that says that the PPP and the government are not corrupt, and everyone just look the other way because there's nothing to see here. That's what he wants, most likely, right? He might get that. I mean, that's the easy probe to do, because really that means that you're not doing any work. You just need to find a government official and a few others who are in the PPP to put together something on a piece of paper that just says everything's fine. And that's that's basically what he wants to do. That's not what's going to happen. Now, a true probe, if you want to know what that means, where that's going to start is you're going to have to subpoena records from all of Mr. Su's business transactions in the country. You're going to subpoena everything. You're going to subpoena his bank records. That's where you start, right? You have to get a judge in the country to issue an order to get records. And that's where you begin the probe. And from there you can go. But I would start with records, and more records. Everything, all of his rental payments to Jagdeo, all of Jagdeo's bank accounts, all of his property dealings, all of those records have to be handed over immediately. And if they're not handed over, then people need to go to jail. That's where you start. And I could go from there, but that's where you would start.
That's where he'll have to start. But all of us, and in fact, all of the people listening know that that's not where Irfan Ali wants to start, because it's going to open a heck of a can of worms, huh?
Look, sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? And if Irfan Ali wants to lead a proper country, a country that other countries will respect, a country that his own fellow countrymen will respect, then he will open up the sunlight, open up the curtains, and let everyone see what's back there.
He's not prepared. He's not, Mr. Anderson. He is not prepared to do that. Irfan Ali, that is not prepared to do that. His suggestion of a probe into bribery allegations, especially level against Barra Jagdeo, is just a public announcement that he's going to hope it will garner some sort of political anxiety, or shift some sort of credit into his direction and say, oh, you see, this guy Irfan, he really wants a probe. He's really a nice guy. He's really a fair guy. He's not corrupt. He has never been charged with 19 fraud charges or whatever. He seems to be a guy, when in fact Irfan Ali doesn't really want a proper probe. In fact, he doesn't want a probe because there's a high possibility that the probe may very well lead to him as well. So, question again, should international law enforcement agencies step in to conduct this probe? And if so, do you think it's something that the U.S. is willing to do?
I am not sure what the U.S. is willing to do. I'm not sure, but I will say this: the United States has broadened. We've broadened our reach when it comes to government officials being bribed overseas. We have something called the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And the way it used to be applied was if a U.S. citizen was overseas and bribed a government official in another country, we would go after that U.S. citizen. Even though they didn't break the law in the United States, they broke the law in another country, we would still prosecute them here in the United States. Well, we've actually furthered our reach on that. And there's this oligarch, this Ukrainian oligarch named Viktor Firtash, and we want him now. He bribed some government officials in India some years ago, and we're after him now. Now he's not a U.S. citizen, and the indictment's right there. We're after him, so we've sort of set the stage now where we can now go after.
Is this? I assume this is what you're referencing. 6 defendants indicted. Good. Continue.
That's it. Okay, these weren't U.S. citizens who got indicted, and the bribery that happened in India, nowhere in the United States. So that's what we're now spreading our reach, and we've decided to go after corruption in other countries, even when a U.S. citizen isn't involved. So I would say there is a possibility that we could get involved on that end. Considering this, there has to be some type of domestic concern. In other words, if there's some type of banking transaction, a wire, a bank that's an American bank or has a branch in the United States, things like that, if that is occurring with any of this corruption in Guyana, I think we might be able to swoop in and do some stuff. So if any U.S. people are listening, that's an angle.
Look, there are some Guyanese businesses or businessmen, so-called businessmen, who are U.S. citizens, who are doing business in Guyana, can very well fall in that category.
Yes, they can. Oh, yeah, they are very much in that. So we have the ability, and if the ambassadors people are listening, yes, we have the ability to swoop in and bring some justice to Guyana through what we're seeing on this Vice News report, where the corruption is so bad that if it's dipping into people who are legal U.S. residents, you don't have to be a U.S. citizen. You can be a legal U.S. resident in the United States and be a Guyanese, and you're in the United States. And if you have bribed Jack Dale or anyone else, our government can come after you, right? And go after whoever's doing it over there in Guyana. So I think, we can get involved, and that's the route where we can get involved. When it comes to an internal thing, I would say this. I think, and I keep saying this, but I think CARICOM, I think the regional countries might have to get involved with an investigation in Guyana.
You have been watching, you have been observing what's happening. Does it appear that they want to get involved? These people are trying to trick the system to get a little piece of land, to cozy up to them there, to hustle, so to speak. Are they really interested in getting involved in doing what's right?
They're not. But pressure, look what's happened. You see, when a little bit of truth comes out, you have a guy like Dr. Ali going from, oh, this is fake, to, oh, let's have a probe. And so these other nations, these other island nations in the Caribbean and part of CARICOM, they may be sitting there like, oh, who cares about what's happening in Guyana? But guess what? If some of this reporting starts extending out into their countries and the corruption is spreading into where they are, well, maybe they should have. Maybe all of a sudden they might be interested in what's happening. I'm saying it like it's far-fetched, but I don't think it is. I think the corruption in Guyana right now is hitting a level where it could destabilize the region, basically, right? And so when you're talking about destabilizing a region, everyone in that region needs to take it serious, and they need to start looking into it, how they can get involved to investigate what's going on, because that's how far this is. That's how bad it is. It's destabilizing, literally. And it's not just bad for the people of Guyana. This is bad for all of us in this hemisphere. What they're doing, what Jack Day on the PP are doing, what was done, what you saw on Vice News, is bad for all of us in the entire hemisphere.
Bad indeed. 26 minutes after 9 o'clock, Thomas Anderson is with us this evening. If you're now joining us, good evening. We're talking about a lot of things. The bribery allegations level against Barrett Jackdaw, that Barrett and the PPP are expecting that people are going to push that under the rug and forget about it. So we find all this sort of diversions and so forth, different little things popping up. But we are not giving up on that. The White House looking into what's happening in Guyana. Billions of dollars there through ExxonMobil. The State Department looking in as to what's happening in Guyana and the high levels of corruption and so forth in that country. It's bad for business. It's bad for democracy. It's bad for the press, and it's bad for visitors. How do you think the White House and the State Department might be feeling at this time?
Well, they know for a fact now. And they probably already have this evidence already. Remember, we have pretty good intelligence services. So I'm sure there's video floating around even worse than the video that we've seen from Vice News of government officials taking bribes in Guyana. I'm pretty sure we've seen worse. The problem now that the U.S. government has is that the entire world knows what they know, right? Everyone has seen it now. And so now that the cat is out of the bag, how can a U.S. administration approach the Guyanese government now led by the PPP and it look legitimate? See, what will happen is if this administration tries to reach out to the PPP and the people of Guyana right now, it's going to look sketchy. It's going to look like, well, why are you trying to work with them? Didn't you see the Vice News report? You see the problem? And so this is a problem for them that's much bigger than I think they could ever imagine. Even if this administration wanted to do something with the PPP, they can't now, not with that Vice News report out there, you see? So this is going to have some ramifications. They have to deal with this. And let me tell you, just trying to sweep it under the rug, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Certainly not going to work. Thomas Anderson here. For some reason or the other, I want you to break this down for our listeners. U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Ms. Sarah Ann Lynch, is very, very quiet on all sorts of things happening in Guyana. Why do you think she may be so quiet? Do you think it's as a result that she is embarrassed? She is basically ashamed as to what has happened, a regime that she has assisted into ensuring that they got into office? I don't know, but I'd like to hear from you as to that level of quietness coming from the U.S. Embassy in Guyana.
Well, just talk in a technical sense, right? If you're the ambassador to Guyana, your main job, right, is you do a lot of work behind the scenes. But for the public to see, it's your job to smile and shake hands with politicians in the country you're in, right? It's your job to sit down next to them side by side and sign documents and agreements. And you're supposed to smile and you're supposed to be friends and supposed to be friendly. Well, imagine her doing all of that after the Vice News report. Her smiling and shaking hands with Jackdaw. They're laughing. You know how that would look? It would just look horrible, right? So she has to stay quiet just for the fact that these guys are toxic right now. They're toxic. So there's really nothing she can do in a positive sense around them without herself looking embarrassed. And who knows what the fallout from this is, right? Later on down the road. So she's definitely going to steer clear of any type of photo op with Jackdaw now. She's not going to want to shake hands, signing documents. This is a big problem. Now, as far as previous stuff and whatever she might have done I'll tell you this. She's a representative of the U.S. government, and it's her job to implement the policies of the U.S. government and the State Department. She's an employee. Like, she's not a boss. She really isn't. Now, I know she's the ambassador and she's the boss of that one office of our country right there in Guyana. But when it comes to the policies, she doesn't have decision-making power on that stuff. She's taking orders, and it's her job to implement them. So I don't know, man. I wouldn't put much on her as far as personal responsibility for what the PPP is right now and how they got into power. I will just say that she's a government employee. She's taking orders. And I don't think she feels any way towards that other than she's done her job. Now, going forward, I don't think she wants a photo op with Jack Dale. Not after that Vice News report. Who would? I wouldn't want to be standing there smiling with him. It would hurt my career as an individual. So if I know as a private person, I don't want to shake hands with that guy and be in a picture with that guy, because people would look at me and say, oh, you're corrupt too, right? So if I don't want to do it, why would she do it? No one wants to do it. So these guys are toxic. It's amazing that they're actually sitting here able to still do business and still run the government, as toxic as they are, actually.
Toxic, very toxic. I don't even think Irfan Ali wants to stand next to Jack Dale at this point in time, even though he might be forced to do so by Jack Dale. But you may be onto something as it pertains to Sarah Ann Lynch, who may very well try to stay away from Jack Dale or corrupt officials at this point in time. Now let's get to the talk about her leaving and heading back somewhere to the U.S. and Guyana has a new ambassador. Are you sensing that might be the case at this point in time? But before I allow you to respond, let me just let you, and of course you may have already heard this, but sorry about that. It was just a post, but what is important is at the bottom here, in the red, you see that there's no ambassador appointed to Guyana or nominated. None whatsoever. Nothing to Guyana, nothing to Haiti. But we have ambassadors appointed to other countries. Recently, we saw Nick Perry, former assemblyman out there in Brooklyn. He has been appointed as ambassador to Jamaica. He himself is a Jamaican. And Nick is in Jamaica right now. Nobody is in Guyana to replace Sarah Ann Lynch. No one is in Haiti. Now, break this down to our people as to why is this happening? Sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at this map here. I'm looking at the list of countries, right? And I'll say I'm looking at Guatemala, I'm looking at Guyana, I'm looking at Haiti. And I have to say, like, all three countries are really difficult, right? Like, I don't know. These aren't easy jobs. And so first thing I'm going to say is this. There aren't many people applying for the jobs in Haiti, in Guyana, or in Guatemala. There aren't that many people. And the people who are, they may have too much of an interest in these countries. And so you can't really bring them in because they have too much interest. So what do? You know, they're kind of stuck, especially Haiti and Guyana. I mean, you're dealing with two situations here. Like, just, I don't even know if Haiti even really has a government anymore. Seriously. I mean, it's really that bad. So yeah, it's tough, Mark. It's tough.
You know, Tom, but somebody may say the same, that we don't even know if Guyana has a government anymore.
I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. That's why I say I'm not surprised. I'm looking at Guyana and I'm looking at Haiti and I'm saying, well, what kind of governments are we dealing with here, really? If we're being honest with ourselves, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You are closer to folks than I am, but my opinion, that I'm not sure that it may be that people don't want to go to Guyana. At this point in time, lots of them may want to go to Guyana. But the thing is that those in the State Department and so forth may not want certain people to go to Guyana at this point in time.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying.
With that certain people.
It's tricky, right? It's a tricky job. You know, you have to have the right person there, and it's tricky, man. So what I'm going to say is I'm not really sure why there isn't a replacement, but I will say this: it's not an easy job to fill. It really isn't. It's a very hard job to fill. It's one of the harder jobs to fill. Okay, put it this way: it's not like the ambassador to Italy. Like, everybody here is trying to be the ambassador to Italy. Okay, everyone is. So there are a million candidates to be the ambassador to Italy. It's not like that for Guyana. I'm sorry. It just isn't. And so when you add to that the political corruption situation, it becomes almost impossible to fill that job. It's really tough.
Well, I know of a top-ranking individual who has been nominated, maybe because of the ethnicity of that individual, that the State Department has not approved. And I suspect that Mr. Blinken, the State Secretary of State, prefers to have someone who is what is considered a career diplomat. And that might be the tussle here now. And I know you might be getting that whispering in your ear that Miss Sarah Ann Lynch may be on her way out. And I use those terms, may be on her way out. And even if you know that she may be on her way out, Tom, I have known you long enough to know that you're not going to say yes, you're not going to say no.
No,
Oh,
I'm not gonna say either way.
there we go.
I will say this, like I said before, it's not an easy job, Mark. Okay, it's a really hard job, and it's not one that people are asking to do. Okay, so the fact that Mrs. Lynch, Ambassador Lynch, has been there and done the job as long as she has and represented our government and has implemented our policies through some tough stuff, man. Okay, it wasn't easy. Some of the stuff that was going on in the previous administration stuff, it's not easy now. I kind of give her a little break on this, and she did what she was supposed to do. It's probably time for her to move on. It is time to move on. The big question is, right? Like, who are we going to put in there, and what are our objectives? I don't know if we really have any true objectives right now for Guyana, because I think this corruption situation has thrown any plans or any thoughts we had, it's thrown it all overboard into the ocean. And so I think we have to start back from scratch on this. Really, it's really a bad situation.
Very, very bad situation. In the past, it has been somewhat a punishment to send someone as an ambassador to Guyana because nobody really wants to go to Guyana. You and I have spoken about this over the years, over the appointments of lots of ambassadors. There were some good ambassadors there in Guyana who did some very, very good work out there in the areas of human rights and fighting against drug lords and so forth. Brent Hart was there. He comes to mind. Roland Bullen was there. He comes to mind. He was African American, of course, Grenadian descent. Then there was John Jones. Those two ambassadors I've mentioned because the PPP had serious problems with those individuals as a result of their ethnicity. Now, I am privy to some information that someone of the same ethnicity of Roland Bullen and Ambassador John Jones was recently nominated, got the approval by the White House, got clearance by the Secret Service, then it was on to the other levels, and that was shut down. I don't know. But can we move on to something else, or you want to touch on the ambassador's position or lack thereof of anyone being appointed or nominated to take over from Miss Sarah Ann Lynch? Anything else on that before we move on?
Well, just remember, in all of this, you have an administration that may be on its way out here, right? Even if the Democrats win the White House coming up in 2 years, it may not be Biden who's president, right? So that's still up in the air right now for us. Like, there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party who are calling for Joe Biden not to run again. So, big questions in the air. And on top of that, I don't really know. So much has happened in the region. If you look at what's happened with the elections in Colombia, right? If you look at what's going on with the Mexican president right now, speaking to Biden and being very forceful and kind of laughing, making a joke that Americans are traveling into Mexico to buy gas because it's just too expensive to buy it in America, right? We've got some serious issues going on over here. And I don't know, I think our policies have to be totally rebooted. And, because of that, I think Guyana may be slipping between the cracks, Mark. It may be slipping between the cracks, man. Unfortunately.
Of course, maybe slipping between the cracks. If I'm a betting man, I'll tell you and all our listeners that I'll put my money on the chick board, as we say in Guyana, the chick board, that Biden wouldn't be running for a second term. I wouldn't be surprised if he resigns 1 year before the elections are due in the United States. Speaking of slipping through the crack, speaking of slipping through the crack, let's move on to our next subject, which has to do with the word crack, cocaine. Uh, Tons and tons, 600 pounds of cocaine recently found in Guyana. And you are all too familiar with these sort of events, with these mysterious planes landing and dropping off hundreds upon hundreds of kilos of cocaine. Nothing as a surprise to you and most of our listeners. But these small planes and these suspicious drops, what's your take on them, Mr. Anderson?
Well, it's back to the good old days of the drug runners flying small planes into, the southern border areas of the United States and Mexico, right? I mean, it's been going on forever. What's crazy about this one is I looked at the tail number on that. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but if that's the same plane for that tail number, the last time that thing was seen in the United States was in 2018 in Massachusetts. I don't know how you get that thing from Massachusetts all the way down to Guyana, and there's no airstrip or airfield in the United States that it landed in. I just don't know how they did that.
Well, let me ask you this, though, in terms of the information of this drug craft. Do you think, and I know sometimes they can be stupid enough, but do you think they're stupid enough to leave that number there on the plane?
Well, I don't know if it's about. Well, here's the thing, right? It's not about being stupid. You have to have a legitimate plane if you don't want to get caught, right? So that's the issue. I think you want the real tail number on there because you want the authorities to know that, oh, this is a plane that's registered in the United States with the FAA. Right. And so if someone sees that, and if the Guyanese police force sees, oh, they go online and say, OK, this thing is registered with the FAA in the United States. It's a legit plane. OK, nothing to see here. Then you just move on. So I don't think they're dumb for leaving it on there. I think they were just trying to pretend that they were doing legitimate business.
Pretending to be doing legitimate business in the bush. We have seen all those questionable, legitimate business in the bush, so to speak, in Guyana. Tons and tons of cocaine. Now, we have heard one of the news entities out there in Guyana said that, that this was a police-led investigation, a Guyana police-led investigation. Now, you have been watching and observing the actions of the Guyana, the conduct of the Guyana police force. Are you convinced that this was actually a Guyana police force led operation?
Well, it could be, Mark. Look, it could be a situation where someone has decided that these guys aren't the right guys to fly drugs out of the country. And maybe some other guys, some competitors are. Right? Yeah. So this could have been led by the police. I don't put anything past anyone in Guyana at this point. I just don't. And so this could have been 100% led by the police. And it could be the case where the police just decide to run operations on certain people and not on others.
Gotcha. But with 600 pounds of cocaine, I am certain that one cannot rule out, mind you, one cannot rule out the possibility of the drug enforcement, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency being involved. You cannot rule that out, Tom?
600 pounds? I don't think so. It's not enough. I know just
600 pounds, 600 pounds. A
No,
U.S.
they don't get. They
all
don't.
aircraft supposed to be registered in the U.S. is not enough. 600
No,
pounds.
they
But
don't. They don't start. Man, they don't start moving until you start talking. I mean, a lot of money. Seriously, because if you just go after all the little planes with a couple 100 pounds of drugs on them, I mean, it's impossible to catch it all. There's just so many of them. And so they usually tend to look for the big ones.
But Tom, we have seen in situations that the DEA, USDA, they've gotten people for just couple kilos.
They have, yeah, but you have to remember, right? That's what you know that they told you they caught. Okay, you have to understand. Not all the time when they do things, they don't tell us everything they're doing. They're giving out, a lot of times they're giving information out strategically to unlock new doors into new investigations. Okay, so I wouldn't look at what they release as press releases as indicative of what they're doing work-wise. Okay, I'm just telling you, when they move, they're moving in on large entire networks, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what they're moving in on. They're not paying attention to little planes with a couple 100 pounds all over the place. They're not, man. They're looking at large networks. That's what they're doing.
You know, Tom, over the years, people know of large networks. People see individuals with tons of money in Guyana. You know who some of those people are. Some of them suddenly have gotten rich overnight. They put themselves as close as possible to Jack J, to the PPP, to Irfan Ali. Some of them drive around in fancy, very, very fancy vehicles and so forth and so on. You're telling me that anyways, I know that you're not telling me, but lots of people have become so impatient and tired of hearing the talks all the time and asking, when will they be bangles placed on these individuals' wrists?
Well, here's the other issue, right? We have to have a government in place that's willing to work with us, right? That's the other problem. We can't, as Americans, we can't just go into Guyana and decide that we're going to just do everything we want to do and we're not going to talk to the PPP. We have to talk to those guys. We have to work with them. We have to work with the Guyana police force if we're going to do anything in Guyana, okay? And if you think about that for a second, what does that tell you? What it tells me is that's tricky business. It's going to be very hard for anyone in our government to work with anyone in Guyana because of the corruption situation. It's that bad. And not just the corruption situation, Mark. Let me also remind you, our government is not allowed to work with other governments who are actively involved in human rights abuses. We can't do it. So that's the other problem, right? So there are major hurdles in the way for the US government or our agencies to get involved with what's going on in Guyana to help the people of Guyana because of the corruption situation in the country and because of the human rights abuses. It's being implemented by government officials. When that happens, we cannot get involved. It hampers us. It prevents us from doing what we can do to help the people of Guyana. It really does. And that's why if there's frustration, you have to understand where the frustration should go to. It has to go to the government of Guyana, because other governments can't work with you if there's corruption and if there's human rights abuses going on. Can't do it.
Well, you know, the minute the U.S. agencies say to the government or so-called government of Guyana that they're looking for X, Y, or Z individual, whether that individual is in Essequibo, whether that individual is driving some fancy vehicle and dashing out monies here and there. They have some individuals who are like that in Guyana. That level of secrecy goes right back into those that are on an extradition list. So you are correct that the regime of the day is not to be trusted when it comes to these things. We have seen many examples before, and you know of some drug lords who were wanted, and then the PPP stepped in and protected them. We have heard of individuals bribing the court, the judicial system, and all manner of things. We have heard it before, so it's nothing new. You are correct. They must have a real government in place who are ready, who are prepared and willing to send those individuals to spend some time, some real years in a prison somewhere in the United States of America. Tom Anderson, lots of other things we want to talk about, but there's certainly, I want to get your opinion on this here. You have no confidence that any sort of thing will come out of this other than the two pilots. One speak, Portuguese, the other one speak Spanish. They may just be remanded to prison, and that's the end of it. The real culprit is being protected. by the PPP and the PPP activists in the Guyana police force? Your take on the outcome of this investigation?
I mean, who knows, man? No one knows in what's going to happen from day to day in Guyana. Who knows if these guys just end up just being sent away somewhere, slap on? Who knows? I mean, there's no way to know, and that's the problem. I don't want to try to predict because I have no clue. I've seen so many of these cases happen in Guyana where some plane shows up in the bush and people get arrested and then nothing happens. I mean, it's just
and then allegations of senior policemen taking bribe to turn the other eye.
It's just, yeah, man, it's happened.
And then they are promoted too.
Yeah, it's happened so many times. It's ridiculous. And so, I mean, the prediction I would say is, okay, what's going to happen with this is what happens with every plane. No one knows. That's what's going to happen, right? That's what's going to happen. So, yeah, unfortunately,
it could be that an alleged or someone who poses as a legitimate businessman in Guyana has already put in his claim that they want that plane. They're going to auction it off, part of bribery. They're going to repaint it, and it becomes a private plane in Guyana.
There you go. I mean, what maybe the Guyana police force can get it and re-rig it up, and they can use it to do missions flying over the bush. Maybe, I don't know,
or sell it to some so-called businessman to fly around the country under the pretense of doing charitable work.
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. You know, so who knows? But I will say this: just imagine if you are a U.S. official and you've been tasked with going to Guyana and working with the Guyana police force to help with this problem with this plane. Okay, if you're the government official, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to ask your staff, okay, well, who am I going to be speaking to over there in the Guyana police force? And when the staff comes back with the report, the guy or woman is going to look at that report, and they're going to say, what? They're going to say, well, what do you expect me to do there? I mean, I don't know who's who. I mean, are the police helping? Are they not? I mean, who knows what's going on, right? And so what I'm saying is, even if anyone wanted to help the situation, as soon as you try, you look at who the characters are, you look at the corruption situation in the country, you look at the human rights abuses in the country, and you say, I can't go there. I can't help them. It's too out of control. And that's what this is.
Out of control, beyond out of control. Drug lords are being, ignored. They're not being charged. They're not being sent to prison. Nothing at all. Maybe unless Uncle Sam steps in for the money launderers and the gold smugglers and these sort of things. But what is your take? What is your take on this guy who sits there as the Home Affairs Minister and his talks about putting people who are commenting, who have an opinion that does not necessarily support the regime of the day, to put those individuals on a watch list? Maybe I am on their watch list and other social media commentators or talk show hosts are on a watch list. How do you take this situation?
Well, I haven't seen that. Explain that to me. What exactly is happening here? Explain this, Mark. I want to hear this.
So basically, this guy, Robeson Ben, is the Minister of Home Affairs in Guyana. Once there's an extradition request, he will have to see it. And of course, maybe he will share that information. Maybe he will share that information with drug lords who are close to the PPP or criminals who are close to the PPP. What he has said recently is that those who are on social media who are talking ill things about the PPP, the installed PPP regime, they are on a watch list, and they will be dealt with when they return to Guyana, or if they return to Guyana.
He was talking to you, Mark. He was talking to you. And he couldn't say that, right? So he had to say, I'm going to make a list. He's talking to you, man.
He's talking to me. Might have been talking to others.
You. Okay, he's talking to you. And look, okay, That's a badge of honor. Okay, you should be on a list. The list you should be on is the list of people from Guyana who stand for what's right and who speak the truth in the face of a lot of evil, right? That's the list you're on. And so let him get mad. Let him make his lists. I hope he makes a long list. And you know, everyone should get on social media and should criticize this guy 24/7. Make sure the list is so long his head spins. That's what it should be, because any mention of this, I mean, come on, man. This is the best way I can describe this is like someone, like he's like the fifth grade elementary school class president or something. Like, this isn't even middle school. This is even high school. I mean, this guy, that's just sad. It's just sad.
But this is the same guy, Tom, who said that it was people outside of Guyana. Obviously, we know who he was referencing, and the persons was responsible for all the spate of fires in Guyana, the burning down of police stations, and all these manner of things without any evidence. This is the same guy who said that the Guyana Police Fire Service, concluded in their investigations, and that investigation will be made public. It has been months since November last year. The investigations have not been made public at all. And Tom, we know why, right? We know why it hasn't been made public. Because there's no evidence to point that anybody outside of maybe the PPP who were responsible for those fires. But they don't want to tell people that.
But Mark, how many lists have you been on? You've been on I remember you were on another list before.
Yeah, I'm on all sorts.
I'm pretty sure you are.
Death list, killing list, all manner of lists. And you are aware of those lists also.
Yeah,
right?
man, it's ridiculous. And that's why, like, our ambassador, she says, like, she can't do anything. She said she has given the hints. She said over and over again, look, you guys need to look at your human rights stuff. Like, she's mentioned it a million times. And it's like no one in Guyana that's in the PPP understands. Look, like, you can't talking about putting citizens on watch lists and saying that you're going to mete out revenge on them when they come back to the country. I mean, you're right up there in human rights abuses again. This is human rights abuses.
I hope he ropes and Ben is on a watch list of the U.S. State Department that would deny him the right to enter the United States of America, because that is obvious human rights abuse. It is threatening individuals who are exercising their constitutional rights, whether in a country like the U.S. or wherever they are, that if you guys continue to speak out against the installed PPP regime in Guyana, you will be placed on a list. We are watching you. We are putting you on the list. And when you come to Guyana, we will deal with you guys. Come on, who does that in 2020?
I mean, these are human rights abuses, man. This is the kind of stuff that it's I laugh at it because it's a clown show, right? But it's not funny because these guys have real power, okay, and they do real damage to people's lives. And so it's not funny. And you know, these types of threats, this type of business that they're running over there in that government, it's not right. It's not beneficial to anyone. It's almost like they're making it up as they go along. And at the end of the day, they keep pointing a finger. But you know what the old saying is, the person that points the finger out, there's how many fingers pointing back at them?
Brooks and Ben should know that. Air Finale and all these guys, they should know it, because we're not going to give up. We're not going to fall asleep with them. Quickly before we go, though, we're heading back to human rights abuses by members of the Guyana Police Force. This is now a 17-year-old boy who was, burned at the Vigilance Police Station there in Guyana on the east coast of Demerara. The police have had several conflicting reports. One time they issued a statement saying that the guy said that he just borrowed a lighter and he just clicked it and burned his t-shirt. And then next week he got another police report, a press release saying that the guy was actually smoking and he fell asleep. What's your take on the return of these sort of human rights abuses practiced by members of the Guyana police force? Tom?
I mean, this is, like I said, the human rights abuses are a huge problem because it prevents not only other governments from helping, but it prevents money from coming in. Everything. What happens now is the only governments that will do any type of business with Guyana are the Chinese and the Russians. And they will do it because they don't care about human rights abuses. They love human rights abuses when you look at how they run their own countries. I mean, these guys are horrible, right? And so what's happening now is, because of these human rights abuses we see against the citizens by the police force, it makes us that the only two countries who can do business now with you guys are the two biggest human rights abusers in the world. This is horrible, right? And so this is the stuff I told you before, Mark. If there's anything that needs to be done in Guyana, these are the things that need to be fixed, right? The police cannot allow people who are in their custody to show up with burns all over their bodies. Okay, and if it happens, an investigation has to be done, and the public has to know how it happened. Not some story about he was playing with a lighter or he was smoking some drugs. Stop it. Okay, he's in your custody. He's burned up. What happened? The truth. Let's be real. They don't want to be real because this stuff has been going on a long time over there, and it's making it so that the country itself is going into a death spiral, where the only people who can come and do business there are people who are just as bad as these guys. And it makes the situation unlivable for the people in the country. It's horrible.
Unlivable, horrible indeed, Tom. Before we go, we heard about this here, which is not surprising at all. Not so long ago, China Railway rejects claims by Vice News, says it abides by the law. China Railway rejects claims by Vice News. This wasn't too long ago. Yeah. Then, less than 48 hours ago, this is what we're hearing now. That talks with China Railway over a Mila hydro project have been terminated. Jack Dale, the guy who is the center of allegations of bribery and corruption, is saying that emphasis now on gas to shore project. Again, another massive corruption, because a lot of those guys in Guyana, they know who they are, who are investing in gas to shore project, are alleged to be money launderers and gold smugglers and so forth and so on. Quickly, are you surprised about this here, China Railway?
Well, here's the thing about that, right? Look at what this headline says. Talks with China Railway over Amala Hydro have been terminated. Talks have been terminated. What does that mean? They've been terminated. Talks have been terminated. What does that mean? And then he's saying that the emphasis is on the gas to shore. Look, all this is them saying, hey, it's hot. This thing has been in the news. We need to just pretend like it's not happening anymore, and let's push it away until everyone forgets, and then slowly but surely you guys will still do everything over there. That's what this is. That's what it looks like to me. So I'm pretty sure when all is said and done, China Railway will have this project and they will do it, period. And they're going to do it, and everyone's in the PPP is going to pretend like nothing to see here. No, they're going to get it. This is just a front. It's just a ruse. It's just a way to distract away. But in the end, China Railway is going to get this project. Okay, period. Watch. Mark my words. That's my prediction. I'm pretty sure I'll be right on it.
All right. Hey, Thomas, look, that again, the Sue situation. Jack Day got caught, literally, that is, with his pants down. And here it is that he said, this was weeks ago, that he will take legal action against Sue. Nothing at all. You're right. A bluff, right? A big bluff.
Why would he do that? I don't understand. What did Mr. Sue do? Mr. Sue has been allowed to buy up almost the entire forest of Guyana, all the trees, by Mr. Jack Dale. Mr. Jack Dale has allowed Mr. Sue to live in his house on his property as a tenant. What are you talking about? Legal action? What legal action? What, an eviction? Well, what's he gonna do? I'm sorry, but that's a joke. Simply because if they start off saying this was all fake, nothing to see here, and then they go to, oh, we need a probe, and now it's, oh, we need to sue Mr. Sue. I mean, what is this? What's going? This is a clown show. I mean, they just keep moving the goalposts. They keep throwing stuff out there. All of this points to this is a corrupt whorehouse over there. And they all got caught with their pants down by Vice News, and they're running like crazy. They don't know what to do. They're making it up. Who knows? That's what's going on here. This is out of control. That's the only way to put it. Out of control.
Out of control indeed. Thomas Anderson, our guest here. It's always a pleasure to have him on. You know, we can't have Thomas go without one final question. We have 2 elections petitions are currently before the court. In fact, one of them has been appealed by the PPP, and that should be coming up. The hearing should be coming up on the 19th of this month at the Caribbean Court of Justice. We are waiting to hear what direction or what decision that would the CCJ would make with regards to that. However, with the 2 elections petitions, the fact that the chairman of the Guyana elections petition says no to any sort of inquiry, any sort of investigations of what may have gone wrong in that agency, she said no investigations, nothing. But yet, not so long ago, Irfan Ali said that he wants a commission of inquiry to probe the 2020 elections. Your take on that, sir? Smokescreen?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what the fight is over the election results and the probes, and I don't know. This all seems like political gamesmanship to me. And I don't know what it seems to me like. These guys in the PPP want to kick the can down the road, and whatever results come, they want to make it so murky and so confusing that no one's going to know what really happened, right? And I don't know if anyone can stop them from doing that, because if their goal is to make it so confusing no one can ever figure out what happened, well, I mean, they're good at that. They're really good at that. I don't know who can stop them from doing that. And so I've always said about this election stuff, you know, I've seen how these guys operate, and they know how to muddy the waters. They know how to make everything murky. They know how to make everything seem like it shouldn't seem. And no one can ever figure out anything with these guys. And so when that happens, all you're really doing is sowing more discontent and more confusion. I just don't know. This is rough, Mark. I mean, this is high level, like, I wouldn't even call it smoke screen. This is just, these guys are piling on to just try to create a situation where no one can figure out anything, is what it looks like to me.
You know, knowing these guys, and I know that you have studied them for many, many years and know a lot of them, those within the PPP who are corrupt at every level, including members of the police force, the army, including so-called businessmen and so forth. I know you know them all. And so I'll just say to you that they're slipping up. The PPP is slipping up. They're not as smart as they try to pretend to be, or to give people the impression that they're smart. They're slipping up. They're getting caught. Vice News caught them. Others caught them. It is not like what Vice News has done is anything new compared to what Guyanese have been saying over the years. But the fact that Vice News is Vice News, and it is an international news agency, that's what makes it interesting. Because you know there were folks in Guyana who were saying the same thing about Jack Dew and allegations of corruption and bribery and all these manner of things. But Vice News got the focus right now, right?
And look, like I said to you, just remember something. And your audience has to remember this, and Jack Dale should hear this. Everyone should hear this. It's very important to hear. Vice News, they have what are called journalistic standards, editorial standard.
I will try to return to Tom Anderson to hear exactly what he's talking about, that standard. He is correct, but Vice News is the center of attraction right now, and we've got to give kudos to Isabel. We've got to give kudos to the guys at Vice News. Kudos. We are not going to rest. We're not going to put this matter to sleep. We are hoping that Irfan Ali would stop the bluffing, would stop the nonsense, and let us deal with a real commission of inquiry to get to the bottom of this, and a commission of inquiry from an international standpoint, not the Guyana Police Force investigating what has happened there. So let's get back quickly to Mr. Thomas. Sorry,
if they're 90% said everything you percent that it was true, right? Things that she.
Yeah, sorry about that. We lost you there for a couple, maybe a minute or so. But thank you so much as always, Tom. Your closing remarks, anything that you want our listeners to walk away with this evening that you didn't get that chance earlier, or I may not have asked. Your time's here. Go ahead. Again, we have lost Tom. I don't know, maybe Tom is in the jungle doing some investigation, wherever Tom is. But we will try. I want to give Tom this opportunity for his closing remarks. You know, he's always been a good guest, and he has said a lot of things, and he hasn't said a lot of things. He spoke about a lot of things. He hasn't said a lot of things, but he has said a lot of things, right? The good thing is, though, whenever Tom is on, you got to be able to read between the lines. Tom, your closing remarks, please, sir. Again, we do have Tom on with us. Tom, can you hear me? Okay, we have lost Tom there. You got the message. Tom has said a lot. Tom hasn't said a lot. Tom has spoken a lot. Tom hasn't spoken a lot. Tom said a lot of things. Tom hasn't said a lot of things. It is up to you to just put everything that he has said, put it in a bucket, strain it out, and you will run away with a heck of a lot of good things that he has said. And that is Tom, right? But whenever Tom speaks, you got to be able to read between the lines. You got to be able to understand exactly where he's coming from. That's Tom Anderson for you guys. We'll try to get him back. I noticed that our operator, thank you so much, Lemon, is working overtime. Maybe we'll squeeze at the end of the year, we'll squeeze something extra for Lemon. But all of you, every single one of you listening to us, wherever you are, thank you so much for tuning in. But keep getting. We got to keep this thing as hot as possible on the front burner. Human rights violations, police brutality, all these things. Vice News and the corruption, allegations of corruption leveled against Bharat Jagdeo. We've got to keep Sue in the news. We cannot be distracted by petty things and folks who are fighting for power, folks who say they want to walk away from a political relationship, and folks who, all manner of things. Those things are minor things. The big things is what we got to keep focus on, and that is the Sue situation and allegations of corruption and bribery leveled against Bharat Jagdeo, and the fact that Bharat Jagdeo and these guys want to hide it, they want to cover it up, they want to pretend as though, oh, it's just an allegation, a nothing thing. He's going to go after Sue. Sue is lying. He's going to evict Sue. He's going to do all manner of things. He's going to sue Sue. All these things we've been hearing, bluff upon bluff upon bluff. Now let's head quickly to Soku. Soku is headed by a guy named Karim Baksh. Karim Baksh was involved in a human rights violations many years ago, where he, according to information, he and a couple other policemen went in search of a wanted man back then in Stanleytown, New Amsterdam. In the process, there were some little boys playing, 14 or 13-year-old boys playing REO, whatever it is. And those boys saw the police coming and they ran and they hid. And those policemen, including Karim Baksh, allegedly opened fire and shot one of the kids and shot his leg off. That's it, done with. He has been walking around without one leg. In fact, without both of, well, what is it? His left side leg, sorry about that. And today happens to be his birthday. That youngster hasn't recovered. It has traumatized that kid for over 20 years now. He's sitting in a prison somewhere in the United States because he wasn't able to recover. He took it on. He was a star basketball, football, soccer player out there at Berbice High School, and he just couldn't. He just couldn't make it at all. And these are the sort of people who are heading agencies in Guyana. These are the people that Irfan Ali wants us to depend on, to deliver justice or to head some investigations of corruption and all these things. And so the fact that Irfan Ali is talking about a probe, he doesn't really mean a probe. Nothing at all. He's hoping that it's going to go away. He wants to look nice, and that is what it's about. He just wants to look nice. I don't trust those guys. I don't trust what they say. Just like they're calling for a commission of inquiry into the elections, allegations of corruption in the elections. We know what transpired. We know why they don't want the elections petitions to be heard, because any sensible person would not want a commission of inquiry now. They will instead push for the elections petitions to be heard. And if Irfan Ali is so concerned about transparency or democracy or free and fair elections, and he wants to know what transpired during the course of the 2020 elections, then he will come out and make a public statement and say, well, look, that he has trust in the judicial system, and he wants to get to the bottom, like we all want to get to the bottom of what really transpired in the 2020 elections, even though some of us already have an idea what they did, right? The PPP. And so he should say that, let the elections petitions be heard, because that is the only forum, the court, where all of those, the SOPs, people will be summoned and everything, and it will be revealed in the court through the elections petitions. But Jack Dale and Irfan Ali, they are afraid of the elections petitions because they're afraid of what's going to come out of those elections petitions, mainly through the SOPs, right? They love to parade and parrot around the place to talk about SOPs, but we all know that their SOPs are questionable SOPs, and so Irfan Ali doesn't want to touch the elections petitions. Every time they're rushing to the court, they're the ones who are rushing to court to block the elections petitions from hearing, but yet they want to spend millions, hundreds of millions of your money into a fake commission of inquiry into the 2020 March general and regional elections. And I leave you with, who the heck Irfan Ali think he's fooling? On the issue of probe, I leave you with this question again. Who the heck Irfan Ali think he is fooling? Not me, and I'm sure not most of you. If in fact Miss Sarah Ann Lynch, U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, is on her way out, let me probably be the first to wish her all the best. And to all of you, every single one of you, including our good friend Sue, wherever he is, we know he's probably locked up somewhere in a nice cozy apartment in the in the Chinese embassy compound, or he may have been back all the way in Beijing, who knows. But for now, I just want to thank you all, every single one of you, for tuning in this evening on Straight Up. We will be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. Pressure bus spike, sugar price gone up 200%. Cost of living going up, no jobs, no nothing. I don't know. You've got to pray for Guyana. But maybe you got to pray for more than, you got to do more than just praying for Guyana. The people of Sri Lanka didn't say, oh, you got to pray for Sri Lanka. They didn't just pray. They act. They made trouble. And you know what? They made good trouble. In the end, the good trouble that they have made paid off. Kudos to the people of Sri Lanka. And to the opposition leader, Mr. Aubrey Norton. In every protest, all the time, there will be agent provocateurs by the PPP paying those individuals to disturb opposition protests, to make the opposition protester, those who have called the protest, to look bad. Don't focus on those individuals. Don't focus on those people. That is what the PPP wants you to focus on. The real criminals are in the PPP. The real criminals are in high offices right now in the PPP. Some of them are also in the police force. Those petty guys who grab a couple of plantains and okras and boras and pylori and so forth, they're not the real criminals, Mr. Aubrey Norton. They're not the real criminals. You know of those agent provocateurs by the PPP, and that is what ought to be the message, that we should let the world know that the PPP, through their thugs and their drug lords and the money launderers, are the ones who pay those little guys to grab a little pylori and do some other things to make the protesters look bad. But I've got to go. One day, and very soon, we're already seeing it, that, and the fisherman has spoken for all of us. Crabman is speaking here now for all of us. Stay blessed, stay safe, and continue with good trouble. God bless you.
Pressure boss pipe. Pressure boss pipe, boy. Umaninja, Guyana, de underwater. Oh, the wrong. Sorry. Umaninja, Guyana, de under pressure. Walk. Bangamere is $400 pong. Trout $400 pong. Oh, you go buy that will sell back, buy. I just come and tell about bisa buy me little fish and mix with me little crab and sell. Thing that just raise, thing just double the price, just double. Oh, partner. What you could do now? You don't squeeze out the juice for the Guyanese people. The beer hawks left, what you could do with the orange?
Making the short video for send to you and the viewers and listeners. I'll know we punishing in Guyana. Punishing. Rice gone up, sugar gone up, flour gone up, castor, living just gone up, gas gone up from 3,400 to 3,800. Real hungry days under this installed PPP government. Real hungry days we gone back to.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind.
Source. Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you. Or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jerome?
Su? Oh, Su.
Pressure boss pipe. Pressure boss pipe, boy.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Hey, Guyanese, hey, come make me so stupid. I wonder. like myself. Yes. Why we so foolish? I'm not gonna tell you. Imagine we put we leaders there in the government and gone we back from them like we don't care how taxpayers' money spent. With all the corruption that taking place, we is the ones we blame. While them are thief. We just sit down like if we lame. But this God don't sleep. No, he don't sleep. By the time I done sing me cry so, I know you're gonna agree with me that he don't sleep. Jehovah not sleep. One day the same bad seed that them sow, it's that they're gonna reap. Under this party, politicians thieving at will. Under this party, them not care, they're doing it still. Under this party, all the big contracts are go to them friend. Under this party, them forgetting the longest rope of an end. But if we the people can come together and stand up for what is right, put aside we indifference and start unite. Politicians would know them damn place and work with honesty. Then boom, Guyana would rise and have a vibrant economy. Ding dang, diddy do dang dunga day. Whoa, dee da ding ding diddy do dang dunga day. Whoa, da 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 do. Guyanese, open your eyes. Yes. Guyanese like myself. Hey, it's time we get wise. Imagine we finance minister, auditor is the wife. It's like putting cat to watch milk.